We are back on Buckeye Talk. More Ohio State players coming off the board, this time early in the 5th round, and it's a former Ohio State player, or former Ohio State coach, I should say, making the pick. And really maybe the first true surprise of the draft so far, Luke Farrell in the 5th round to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Urban Meyer seeing some value. And I was just talking to Steven off camera and saying, I think as much as we're surprised by this, I think we also maybe screwed up a little bit by not talking about Luke Farrell more going into the draft, because Kevin Wilson did say, and coach speak, whatever, but he said that scouts had told him Luke Farrell might be the best blocking tight end coming out of the draft. If you're someone like Urban Meyer who knows that the hands and things like that are there, even though they're not utilized that much at Ohio State, then I could see someone seeing value in him. Now, I'm not surprised he got drafted. I am surprised he got drafted this high.
None of us. What do you mean you're not surprised he got drafted? We talked about him on our draft podcast that went 2 hours for like 9 seconds, and none of us talked about him getting drafted. So now you're going to say you're not surprised he got drafted? Then why didn't you pick him to get drafted?
Just I didn't predict him to get drafted doesn't mean I'm surprised he did.
All right, so here's the deal with Luke Farrell. I've talked to Luke Farrell like Michigan week for like a big Luke Farrell story that I still haven't written. This is how I operate. Luke Farrell, Northeast Ohio guy, Urban recruited him hard. Luke Farrell went through the process, very pragmatic in the recruiting process, looked at everybody, looked at Notre Dame, looked at Boston College, looked at some other schools, decided he wanted to go to Ohio State, but he wanted to announce that he wanted to commit to Ohio State a certain way. And Urban, Luke thought that Urban, and I think this is right, Urban's like a handshake guy. It means something to Urban Meyer. He's kind of that old-fashioned guy. You shake Urban's hand, that seals a deal. So Luke wanted to commit by going to Friday Night Lights, and he called Urban Meyer and he said, "Can I talk to you?" And he called him out. They met at the 50-yard line in the Block O at Friday Night Lights. And Luke Farrell shook Urban Meyer's hand and said, "I'm committing to Ohio State." Here we are 5 years later, and Urban Meyer picks Luke Farrell. Now, I'm not sure it's a direct line from that Block O to the third day of the NFL draft, but there's not many wiggles in it. Like, that's Urban Meyer. Like, Urban Meyer might have told that story in the Jacksonville draft prep to sway everybody that, yeah, Luke Farrell's worth this pick. Yeah, watch the film, but this is the kind of guy he is. That if Urban wants a couple guys like that in his room, and we'll talk more about Urban in this draft when we wrap it up on Buckeye Talk. He's taken a lot of guys he knows. He's taken a lot of guys that he recruited, right? They took that guy from USC that Ohio State finished second to, Jay Tufele. They took the two Clemson guys. They're taking Luke Farrell. Like, they're taking guys that Urban is familiar with. And like, when you know that Luke Farrell story, I think it adds to it. Yeah, he's big. Yeah, he can block. Yeah, he's tough. Yeah, he can also catch the ball for you. But I think there's something with the way Urban views Luke Farrell that he wants a guy like that in his locker room. And why not? 5th round, let's do it.
I think a story like that is a tiebreaker, right? If you were already planning on with that 145th pick that you were going to take a tight end, and maybe it came down to this guy and Luke Farrell, that Farrell story is what puts it over the top. That's if there is a direct correlation, that's what it is. We want a tight end with this pick. We're going to take a tight end, and we're down to 2 or 3 guys. How can they separate from each other when the skill sets are probably similar? Because he's a blocking tight end right now.
You know, we've talked a lot on this podcast about over the years about the fact that Ohio State doesn't utilize its tight ends liberally in the passing game, and what that supposedly means for recruiting and trying to attract talent at that position. Yet they keep doing this. They keep getting guys into the NFL and guys who stick around for a little bit. And Luke Farrell certainly seems like he could be one of those guys. Steven, I'm curious your perspective on this, because they've got 2 guys committed for 2022. They keep going out and finding tight ends. And sometimes it's, the Jeremy Ruckerts, who is a 5-star prospect. Sometimes it's guys who are farther down the list. And this kind of is further evidence that they can develop those guys.
I think Luke Farrell is a better implication of what tight ends should expect when they come to Ohio State. Jeremy Ruckert's going to be a different story. He'll probably be a 2nd-round pick next year. That's a top 100 guy that Ohio State never gets. But Luke Farrell, a top 200 guy, barely 191 in his class, while guys like Benji Gosnell and Bennett Christian and, Sam Hart, those guys are, mid 200s, 300 guys. This is what your development track looks like. 5 years here, right? Luke Farrell was a 2016 guy. For 4 or 5 years in the program, and at best, maybe you're a 4th or 5th round pick. This should be your expectation as a tight end here.
We also think their starting tight ends are 2022 in 2022 are going to be a converted defensive player and a converted receiver. So,
yeah,
I mean, like, okay, like Luke Farrell is what? Luke Farrell. I mean, Luke Farrell is Luke Farrell. Awesome for Luke Farrell. I mean, like, I don't think it means anything for like guys saying like, oh, I'm going to go to Ohio State and be a 5th round pick. That's my dream, right? I mean, like, this guy was a really good, productive player who had 3 really good years at Ohio State, who's an Ohio kid and came in and overachieved his draft ranking. But what they're going to have, like, guys are beating down their door to be Ohio State tight ends because of Luke Farrell?
No, but this is how it's worked. I mean, you don't see a parallel here between the other guys who've gone on to the NFL from Ohio State in recent years?
No, I guess, but I don't know. I mean, like, I don't think Luke Farrell picked Ohio State because Jeff Hireman and Nick Vannett got picked in the 3rd round. So I want to see it with some more recruiting at tight end, right? I mean, Jeremy Ruckert is, as Steven just said, is an exception. I don't see the next Jeremy Ruckert in recruiting. And they're taking athletes and turning them into tight ends because I'm not exactly sure how the tight end recruiting is going. So this does not tell me anything about recruiting tight ends at Ohio State, in my opinion.
Well, it tells us that Urban Meyer likes Luke Farrell, and he goes in the 5th round. And that's the first Ohio State player that Meyer has taken so far. We kind of speculated. I thought it was going to be tough for him to get through this draft without taking one Ohio State player. And maybe this is the only one he ends up taking, but there are still some more guys on the board, and we'll see. The Jaguars obviously have a lot of needs.
I picked Urban Meyer to take an Ohio State player with the first pick of the 5th round, which is what he did. I just thought it would be Shaun Wade, and it's not Shaun Wade. It's Luke Farrell.
That'll wrap up, but we're going to do more on every pick that comes off the board today, as we have all weekend. I'm Nathan Baird. He's Doug Lesmerises, and that's Steven Means. And that was Buckeye Talk.